Welcome everyone. It's the 11th day of June 2020. And we've been at this like 10 weeks, almost 3 months, heading into 3 months with this coronavirus thing. It's one of the reasons that I wanted to get it started and just have all of us an opportunity to create something new in this coronavirus time that we're in, COVID-19. So that's why we started successfulpeople.com or successful people. It is a .com actually, but it's not open yet. But let me start our conversation by sharing my screen. Here we go. All right, can you see that, everyone? Okay, so the 11th of June 2020. My name is Robert Allen. Many of you have my books that have sold millions of copies around the world and internationally as well. Today, we're going to go a little deeper into a chapter in Multiple Streams of Income, which is called Infopreneuring. And I want all of you to have that chapter. Let's see, how can I do this? I'm thinking. So today we're going to talk about, last week we talked about the 6 stupid mistakes. Today we're going to talk about the other 6 that make up 12. Last week we talked about not having your book, not believing your book's going to make you rich and famous, because it usually doesn't for most people. It's like winning the lottery, frankly, for most authors. Don't publish with a traditional author or a traditional publisher yet. Don't write a book about you and your story. I just received an email from somebody who had written a wonderful book, and it was about 21 episodes from her life, and I think she found out about it from this particular call. So somehow or other she found her way to my email, and I responded to her email today. And her 21 episodes were wonderful. They were incredible episodes from her life where she learned things and had some miracles happen, things like that. She asked me for the endorsement for her book. She wants me to endorse her book. And I don't usually do endorsements for anybody except for my own personal students. And for those people, I create an endorsement because I help them write their book. And when their book is done, I know it's a good book and it fits the parameters I think would make a successful best-selling book. And therefore, I want them to have the foreword to my book. And so right now we're training with a group right this very moment in a class I call Idea to Income, and every one of them is going to have a foreword in their book, not just a blurb or a testimonial, but the full foreword. This gal who tracked me down today, saying I want your testimonial, I want a blurb for you about my book, and I read the first chapter, and it was as she just described, it was all about her. It's about her life. It's about her successes. And my response to her back again, and if she's on the call, forgive me, I won't say her name or anything else like that to identify her, but basically to say, no, I will not give you an endorsement for your book. I will not. Because in my experience, an autobiography isn't really all that successful unless you're rich and famous. And then people will buy maybe 1 million copies of it, but most people will not buy somebody else's story unless that story that somebody else tells helps you have a better story in your life. So I told her if she would kind of tweak her manuscript so that it was directed toward the reader and not only to her, bragging about her success. She's not one of my students, by the way. She's not, she might have read a book of mine and somehow tracked me down. But what I'm trying to tell all of you is that you and your story, if what you want to write is that, good, great, write it. But the probability of it being a bestseller is not very high. And you say, well, I don't really want a bestseller. Then why would you write your story? Did you write your story so that a few people would read it? You want to write your story so that hundreds of thousands of people read it. You want your story to be a catapult to the reader, for the reader to read how your system worked, so you got where you are, and it changed your life, and therefore your goal is to change their life by the book that you wrote. So we discussed this last week. I won't spend any more time on it, but thinking that your book is just a book, it's not. A book is a lead generator. A book is a business, right? Don't write a single word until you plan your funnel. And we showed you various different kinds of funnels that authors create. And then don't forget to build your database. This was our conversation last week. Eventually, we'll have a way to post all of these successful people calls on my website. It's not there yet, but eventually at robertallen.com, we'll post all of the past calls for those of you who want to learn about it. All right. So stupid mistake number 7 is don't have a boring title with a weak promise. Let me tell you a quick story. So there was a couple of authors who wanted to write a successful book, and they called it Happy Little Stories. Well, the purpose of the book was every speaker has a story or two that are their signature stories. So my signature story is me going to the unemployment lines and selecting people from the unemployment lines, had no job, no cash, no credit, sometimes no friends, had nothing, and then pulling them off the unemployment line and teaching them in 90 days how to make money with no credit, no cash, no collateral, no cash flow, no job, no nothing. And they did it. And so I wrote a book about it. It was called The Challenge. And so it's a story where I basically say your wealth is inside you right now. It's not outside you. I drive a Mercedes. It's a very, very nice car, but that's not my wealth. Even looking at me driving that car, somebody might say, he's a wealthy guy. Well, in this case, yes, it's true, I am. But many people drive cars like that aren't wealthy, and because you can pay a high monthly payment, even if you don't have a lot of money. You can look rich, but real wealth is when you take your assets, your internal assets, your intellectual property, and you turn your intellectual property into external wealth. It goes from internal wealth to external wealth. So when I went to the unemployment lines, they had no external wealth. And I knew that if I taught them the right system, they could take their internal wealth, their courage, their determination, their commitment, and all this sees that the banker wants cash flow, credit, and collateral. If you have those 4 things, you can borrow as much money as you want. If you don't have those things, then you can't borrow money. And it's hard to borrow money. But the internal assets are the courage and the creativity and the commitment and all the C's that are inside of a person. So my signature story is basically showing how real wealth is inside you right now. All of you have it. If you're just here on this call, it tells me that you want to be a better person, that you want to learn, and you're willing to invest your time in the afternoon of a Thursday to let Bob pontificate about the things he wants to talk about. And so those are my signature stories. Sending the LA Times, sending me to San Francisco, and taking away my wallet, and I buy 7 properties in 57 hours with nothing but $100 cash in my pocket. Those are my signature stories. And then also there are metaphorical stories that a speaker has that he or she tells to illustrate a point or two in a speech, And so I'll tell the story of the way they catch monkeys in Africa, and I have no idea if it's true or not, but it's a fun story. They take a coconut shell and they cut out one end of it. It's a small little hole, and they tie a string to the other end of the coconut, and they put some peanuts inside that coconut. They put it in the middle of the palm tree grove, whatever, and they go behind one of the trees with their string, and they wait until a monkey comes along, and the monkey can smell the peanuts and reaches inside the coconut shell and grasps the peanuts, but now the shell, the hole is too small with the peanuts inside their fist to allow the fist to escape. And so then they just haul in that stupid monkey, because the monkey will not let go of those peanuts to save his life or her life. And so I'm trying to say that many people will hold on to beliefs that they think are true, and they'll hold on to them, and they won't let go. They won't be open. They're fixed minded. They're not open minded, and so they won't let go of the things that are holding them back. And because they can't. Looks like Kenesha is. Let's see. Well, let's hold on a second. I've got my assistant, Kenesha, who's trying to get in and can't. Let's see. So I'm just going to text her and let her know. So I hope that hasn't been the. Well, we've got a good class going, a good size. Anyway, the signature story is about how people won't let go, and sometimes you have to let go of your old beliefs. So it's a story that lots of speakers have used, and I've got maybe 100 of them like that. And so these two famous public speakers decided they wanted to collect all the stories from these great other speakers and put them all into one book. They would call it Happy Little Stories. Well, that's a terrible title. It just is a terrible title. And there's no promise in it all. It's just Happy Little Stories. They tried to find a publisher. They went to 200 publishers, and they all said no. Finally, they found one publisher. By this time, however, they'd changed the title. And the one publisher recognized that this was a title that had some buzz, that had some possibility. So made them buy the first 20,000 copies of the book. They had to, as authors, they had to buy their own book. And so while the book was getting ready, they went on all their speeches, they sold 20,000 copies in advance of their own book and delivered the money to their publisher. So the publisher would publish it and get it out there. And the story, the title is a title you probably guessed by now. It's Chicken Soup for the Soul. Now that title was, and I think I bounced off, I talked a little bit about this last week. That title was downloaded. It was a title that I believe that higher power gave to these two men, Jack Canfield and Mark Victor Hansen, to write a book that would change people's lives. It turns out to be every story in the Chicken Soup for the Soul book. Every story has been vetted by sending it to hundreds of readers to see whether or not what they would score the story. And if it scores 9 or less, or like 8 or less, it doesn't appear in a Chicken Soup for the Soul story. It has to give you goosebumps. If it gives you goosebumps, a score of a 9 or a 10 or more, then it'll be in the short list to make it into the next edition of Chicken Soup for the Soul. And every book has 101 stories in it. So its title was not boring. It was different, and it kind of gives you goosebumps. Chicken soup, which makes you, if you eat it, if your mom gave you it when you're sick, it's supposed to make you better, right? Well, these are things that make your soul better, and they've been designed and selected to be one of the many stories in that book that you cannot read a Chicken Soup for the Soul book without having goosebumps. Sooner or later, somewhere along the lines, you'll read a story that gets you verklempt. And that's what it's designed to do, right? So, Chicken Soup for the Soul, great title, right? Rich Dad, Poor Dad, great title, great title. Think and Grow Rich. What was the original title of Think and Grow Rich? It was called Making a Boodle with Your Noodle. That is the original title of Think and Grow Rich. And the publisher would not publish it with that title, thank heaven. And so they came up with a new title called Think and Grow Rich and made it the all-time best-selling success book in the history of the world, not counting spiritual books, of course. And so the title is really important, and the promise needs to be strong. So when we wrote The 1 Minute Millionaire, that's a strong title. How do you become a millionaire in a minute? And it's also, the subtitle is called The Enlightened Way to Wealth, which is a little jarring for people, because most people think that wealth and enlightenment don't belong in the same sentence. But yeah, they belong in the same sentence, because almost all wealth, since it comes from internal stuff, almost all wealth it comes from somebody's internal wealth. And that's enlightened wealth. And then when you enlighten it more by giving some of the proceeds away on the money you make from whatever you earn, if you give the first 10% away or more, that book or that product or that business has the smile of higher power over it, in my opinion. And therefore, that's why we talk about, giving so much in this book. You got to give your way to wealth. And anyway, the title worked, sold 1 million copies, multiple streams of income. Now this subtitle right here is How to Generate a Lifetime of Unlimited Wealth. I hate that subtitle. Really, I really hate that subtitle. But we tested it. We tested it on several thousand of my students, and we asked them to select their favorite subtitle for the book, Multiple Streams of Income, which is a great title, by the way. It's got a promise in it, and it's you want multiples, not just one stream, but you want multiple streams of income. So we test it. Now, Zipf's law is a law that says that you look up Zipf's law online and you'll read, it's a very scientific thing. It's even hard to read. But the way to translate it, according to my friend Marshall Thurber, is that the winner in any contest, let's say a winning title, is going to get about twice as many votes as the second place winner. So when you test a title with your audience, the winning title will probably, let's say if you tested with 100 people, and there were 10 titles that people were selecting from. Some of them will get 0 votes, some will get 2 or 3 votes, but the top 3, the winner will probably get maybe 25 votes. And it'll be twice as many than the second title, which will get about 12 votes. And it'll be 3 times as many as the third winner, which will get 1/3 as many votes, will be about 8 votes. In other words, a winner has an aura around it. And so the title, since it's the first thing people see when they're looking at a book, it's the most important real estate. Talking about intellectual real estate, the real estate of your book, your title should be it. Now, we've been discussing this last 2 weeks. For those who just joined with us and were with us last week, we're talking about you as the author. You're going to write a book. You might not write it this year. It might be 5 years from now. It might be 50 years from now. But one day you're going to write a book. You've always wanted to. And if you haven't always wanted to, I'm going to go back and rewrite your past and plant in there an image of you wanting it a long time ago. Because your life is a story, and your story has meaning, and and the things you learn, you can learn to systematize. And when you systematize what it is you've learned in life and teach somebody else the system of what you've discovered in your life, when you teach what you've discovered, somebody else can learn from your mistakes. And it will save them time and money and effort and pain. And therefore, it should be a desire of everyone to want to teach what you've learned in life. Now, my personal belief is that we came to this earth from another sphere. We were planning as spirits to come here, and we knew the lessons would be hard to learn, and we knew that there would be a lot of confusing messages, and that we'd have to figure out the truth from the falsehood. We'd have to figure it out from our own experience. We'd have to learn that if you take certain substances, that they end up creating bad results. I personally don't take those substances, but a lot of people have. And I've learned from their failures and sometimes their suicides and their deaths. I learned that, hey, I ain't gonna do that, never, because I learned from somebody else's story. So when you learn from something in life, you need to systematize it. What did you learn about life? What's the most important thing you can learn here? Well, when you read the stories of people who've died and gone to the next world and come back, regardless of their religion, regardless of their nationality, regardless of anything that would distinguish them from anybody else, whatever country in the world these near-death experiences happen in, they come back with pretty much the same story. The story is, oh my gosh, so much love, so much love. It is impossible to describe. And when they tell you their story, they start to cry almost every time because it was so overwhelming. And then they say, you gotta learn as much as you can while you're here. You gotta learn, don't waste your time, learn as much as you can. So when you read the stories of people who've had that experience and come back, I haven't had that profound of an experience. I'm very close to death a couple of times, but the lessons of life, I think you need to share as an author. If nobody read it but your posterity, you need to write it. Period. End of story. And then if you want people to hear it now, then you need to create a title that's fun, and you do a test with all the people on your email list, all the people that are on your cell phone, every email you have, or every text message you get from somebody, you have all their telephone numbers. Take 50 of them and send them all a message and say, I want to select a title. I've got 5 of them here. Would you pick the one that you think would be the best title? And more than likely, one of them will be voted by all 50, all 100 of the people you test with. One of them will be a clear winner. And the second one will be clearly second place. And the third one will be clearly in third place. That's called Zipf's law. So that's why the title is so important. My first title was a fluke, nothing down. A proven program that shows you how to buy real estate with little or no money down. What a promise. What a promise. Strong promise. My third book was The Challenge. Now that was a bad title. It had a strong promise, but it was a bad title. There it is, The Challenge. This is the original book with the subtitle, Send me to any unemployment line. Let me select someone who's broke out of work and discouraged. Let me teach them the secrets of wealth. In 90 days, they'll be back on their feet with $5,000 cash in the bank, never set foot in an unemployment line again. Terrible subtitle. Why? Send me to any unemployment line. Was that my avatar? Is that the person I was trying to find? Do people who are on unemployment lines go into the bookstores usually? Wanting to make $5,000? In other words, the promise was to the wrong person with the wrong amount of money. And therefore it sucked as a title. And it sold 60,000 copies instead of 1 million copies like my 2 previous books had. So testing a title is really important, and make sure it has a strong promise with it. Now, mistake number 7, oh, by the way, here's the idea to income. We've tested this one now, 8 steps to turn your ideas into exponential income. Many of you were on a call we did last Monday where this book was given away. And those of you who were there, as we promised you, if you were on the call with us last Monday, it is being finally revised. So the links inside this book that give away the free gifts, so there is one clear link throughout, and that you get all the 7 gifts inside that book. So those of you who are on that call, you'll get this book for free as our gift. Those of you who would like to get a copy of this book, I'm going to do another call Tuesday, the 23rd of June. So that's going to be a ways from now. But on the 23rd of June, we're going to spend an hour and a half going into a real system on how you make money selling books. And then I'll give this book away to you for free, for those of you who would like it. Mistake number 8, stupid mistake. Don't look like a self-published crap. Don't look like a self-published book. Don't look like, you know, when somebody looks a title from a self-published book, you can see it. You can see it a mile away. It looks cheap. It looks like a professional has not touched it. That you thought it was kind of a good looking cover and went and downloaded some images from the internet and pasted them all on your cover all by yourself. And if it doesn't look good, you know, you shouldn't be talking about it. You shouldn't be giving it away. 75% of the cover of success is the cover. Real estate is your prime real estate. So don't turn the cover of your book into a slum. Have a little dignity. Spend a little bit of money. Go to Fiverr.com, Fiverr.com. That's where people will do things for $5 and say, I need a cover for my book. And you can get 20 people for $5 to design a cover for you. And a lot of them are professionals. This is what they do for a living. And you can pick a good title for $100. You can have 20 different books to choose from, and you'll be able to sense. You can do the testing again with your friends, and you can ask your friends, which of these titles, which of these covers do you like better, right? So when they ask bookstore owners, what percentage of the success of a book is the cover? 75% said the cover, 75%. You look at a book, you know, you grab it, you pick it up, you want it, right? Or it just doesn't resonate with you. Spend some time on the cover. This is your legacy. I have so many people show me their books, and I can tell it's self-published. You know, stupid mistake number 9. People get discouraged because they have a title that's a pet title for their book, and they've always wanted to, and they'll tell it to their friends, and they'll say, this is the title for the book I'm working on right now. And they've been working on it for 20 years. And finally, someone else publishes a book with their title. And they're devastated. That was my title. Well, relax, because what's the probability that that title with that author, another author, will sell well? Without marketing behind it, it will probably sell 1,000 copies. And no one will have ever heard of it. So more than likely, it's legally okay for you to publish another book with the same title. Of course, you could choose a subtitle that's different, but you could have the same main title. And the reason I know this is because many people have tried to copy, you know, Nothing Down, Creating Wealth, Multiple Streams of Income. One guy put all 3 of my titles into his title. He said, How to Create Wealth by Buying Real Estate with Nothing Down so you can generate multiple streams of income. That was his title. I was not happy about that. But guess how many people bought that book? No, he's disappeared. He's gone. My books have sold millions. So your title has to have marketing behind it, but it needs to be a good enough title. And if you see a similar book, don't worry about it. You need to test that title to see whether other people want it. Just because you think it's a great title is usually a wrong attitude. You know, a gal I was training with in London, one of my inner circle members, she had her dream to publish this one title with these stories inside it, and it was such a bad title. I said, Stephanie, I said, this title sucks. Sorry, this is not going to work. She says, but it's my title. I said, I've been working, you know, and I said, sorry, it's not going to work. Well, she found a title that worked, and she found a whole group of women who joined with her on an online program. And the difference between the one title and the other title is just shocking. So if you see a similar title, relax, it's okay. But you still need to test it. You test it until you find if that is a winning title. And you can still publish it with that title. More than likely, that other person doesn't have any marketing to go with it. So it's all about marketing. It's about you marketing the book. And most authors, they don't understand the game. They think it's my job to write the book. It's the publisher's job to market the book. They help me edit it, and then they'll distribute it to all the bookstores, and then they'll do promotion for the book. And that's their job, right? Well, that's their job for about 30 days. And then they've got another 100 books coming down the pipeline. And they have to focus their attention on the next book that's going to fall off the end of the runway, and you get lost. And therefore, you're the one who's responsible for the marketing. And the reason that my first two books were million copy bestsellers is because we had a seminar that we were doing around the United States at that time. Seminar that was being taught to hundreds of thousands of people. You know, we talked, we've had 1 million people sit in seats in cities all around the United States, listening to a 90-minute presentation about nothing down real estate, and then coming to a 2-day seminar for $500 that showed them the detail of 50 nothing down techniques. Well, if you go from city to city to city and run advertising in every one of those cities, and 90% of the people go to your seminar do not buy your seminar. 10% do, but 90% don't. What about that 90%? Well, now they know the name of the book, and so they go to the bookstore and buy it. So my first two books were done in the middle of lots of massive promotion. And so it was our marketing that drove that to the #1 spot. But that still doesn't mean that you can't do a little marketing online, Facebook and social media. Little bits of marketing can do enormous amounts, because it doesn't take very many copies to move the needle on Amazon.com. It only takes a couple hundred copies. Now, if there were, say, 500 books that were selling in the major bookstores in the United States, and they were all bought within 1 week, 500 copies of the book. Of course, they have to be bought individually with the individual credit cards. A person can't walk into a bookstore and buy 20 books. They have to be bought in 20 individual sales. New York Times will pick that up. More than likely, the New York Times, if you could consistently do that for another 3 or 4 weeks, yeah, you'd hit the New York Times bestseller list. So there's just like Facebook has an algorithm, well, so does the New York Times, and so does Amazon.com. And it's all about marketing, and it doesn't take very many copies to move the needle. You don't want just a book, you want a steady stream of checks, don't you? You want streams of income that flow into you for the rest of your life. So that means you have to have a website where you're marketing this stuff. Stupid mistake number 10, don't be a cliche. Just look at the books that don't sell. You know, they're cliches. They are, happy little stories. That's a cliche. It just doesn't make sense. Chicken Soup for the Soul? See the difference? Whoa. And sometimes it takes testing to figure that out. And when you read your writing, if you could hire somebody to read your book, you can hire somebody at Fiverr.com to read your book, use your manuscript. And when they read it, you'll give them 2 or 3 assignments as they read your book. And it might cost you $100 for somebody to really do this for you. First thing is, what is the ratio of I to you? In other words, you literally go on your word program and search for the word you or yours. And notice how many there are. Count that up, and then search for the word I, like I did this, I did that, or the word me, or the word mine, which makes it you are telling your story. If you use the word I, me, mine, if you're trying to get out to somebody else, you're telling the story you, yours, ours. You, your, ours are power words, and I, me, mine are weak words. And so first you'd have somebody count them up, and they can do that on a computer, and you could probably do that just as easily rather than hiring somebody to do it. And if the ratio of I's to me's, if the I's are way, way, way less than the U's, then you're going to have trouble with that book. It may be your dream to write it, so please write it. But if you want it to be a bestseller, ain't going to happen. You need to talk to the reader. The second thing you're going to have them look for is how many cliches are in the book. And a cliche is just ordinary languaging, you know, and you'd think, well, that's good. You know, don't you want to speak the way an ordinary person would speak? Yes, and you also want to take about half of them out and put in new ways of saying the same thing in a totally new, refreshing way. Because then as a person reads it, they go, oh, that's interesting. I've never heard it said that way before. Well, it takes some work to do that. It takes, you have to think it through, you know. You have to, how do I say that same thing, that same cliche in a new way, a fresh way? And eventually you'll get good at typing and having a cliche come out, and then you go, oh, that's a cliche. How can I say that in a different way? How can I say that in a new way, a fresh way, a more powerful way? And it just makes your writing just sound like you, sound like a different, it gives you a voice. I want your voice to be unique. And that's why I don't want you to be don't want you to be a cliche. And if it's old or stale, in fact, people will open up a book and they'll read one page of it and they'll go, I've got this same stuff in 16 books in my library right now. So no, it just doesn't grab me because it's kind of boring. Been there, done that. You want them to be fresh and new. Now this is different. This has got personality. You'll notice that's a good way to describe it. This has got personality. Someone will says, now he's speaking my language. Well, it's because your message might be translating through to them, but the way you say it, your vocabulary. I watched Jim Rome the other day on television, actually. He's a sports announcer. You ever watched Jim Rome? His languaging is very different. It's weird, actually. He's got his own kind of language, is what he calls the listeners on his show. They're Romies, I think is what he calls them. I can't remember. But when people call in on his show, they use his vocabulary. They speak the same way he speaks. And they're proud of the fact that they're speaking his language. It kind of goes both ways. You want to speak their language, in other words, you want to resonate with them, but you want them to speak your language. So in my book, Nothing Down, you know, I call a highly motivated seller. No, I don't call them a highly motivated seller. That's ordinary language. That's cliche language. I call them a don't wanter. And that's exchanger language. That's creative real estate language. A don't wanter means they don't want their real estate. So people now, when they come up to me and they say, Robert, I found a property with nothing down. I said, how'd you do it? I found a don't wanter. Oh, I know exactly what that means. How'd you find them? You know, and then we have a conversation. So it shows your personality, your own vocabulary, unique languaging, the way you would say it in a different way. You know, if you're working with me, if you're one of my Idea to Income members, and I read through some of the languaging that they send me, and I don't want you to write a boring, cliched book, and I won't let my name go on a boring, cliched book. I'm going to tell my student, go have another crack at this and see if you can say that in a fresher way, and see if you can say it in lesser words. So this is the third thing you want to have your researcher look for you. Do you use long words? Do you repeat yourself a lot throughout the book? Is your sentences really long? As I might have shared a story with you, when I wrote the challenge book, I think I mentioned this last time, but when I wrote this book, it was twice this big. And my publisher, he just had to read one chapter and he goes, this is way too wordy. This is way too wordy. Cut it in half. And I hired a screenwriter to come to my office, and we went through every page, and he would say, can you say that a little in a shorter way? Can you say that more quickly? You know, do you have to say those, can you have to use those many words? You know, and we have a lot of dialogue in this book because it's a real story of real people making real money in 90 days or less. So he would say, that sentence had 23 words in it. Let's see if you can say it in half that many words. So he would take a sentence and we would cut out a word or two here. Do you need that adjective? No, it doesn't. I'll read it again. So now it's like 12 words. So can you say it in less words than that? See, he's a screenwriter, and he realizes he has to tell a whole story in a movie in an hour and a half or 2 hours. And therefore, you can't have long sentences. It has to be one-word sentences, two-word sentences. And so at the end, we took my manuscript and cut it down so that it read faster and it wasn't boring. And so there's a lot of little tricks, you know, that most people don't know anything about because they're not found in a lot of books that you find. Sometimes it just, when you're speaking with a best-selling author and they can tell you that they're little tricks, right? Stupid mistake number 11, don't write to the broadest possible audience. As soon as somebody tells me they're writing a book and they say, who's it for? And they go, everybody needs this book. I know it's going to fail because it's not targeted. It's not targeted. The avatar, which is fancy languaging for your ideal reader, needs to have a specific identity. So when you're writing that book, you're writing it to one person, or maybe a family, maybe a husband and wife, or a couple, maybe with a child. What does the family look like? And who is the one who's reading the book in that family? And to know them by their name, right? So many people, you know, they don't narrow down their avatar, and therefore their message gets so broad that a person reads it and goes, well, this doesn't seem to be all that in. But a person who is searching, Googling right now for a solution to a problem that they feel urgently right now, they are a very specific person. And they're a group of people just like that. And there are hundreds of thousands of them, of narrow, in a narrow niche, hundreds of thousands of people who identify with that narrow niche. And when you talk to them as if you know them, they respond, they resonate. And so it's a big mistake that the beginner authors make. I want you to change the world. You know, as people say, what's your message? I want to change the world. I said, well, how do you want to change the world? Well, I want everybody to be happy. I can tell you that book is not going to make it. Although there have been a couple of happy books that have made it. I want everybody to be happy. So what makes the person unhappy? Tell me the problem that person has who wants to be happy. Solve that problem for them and they will be happy, happier. And so change a narrow sliver of the world, not the entire world. Because when you change a narrow sliver, you actually change somebody's life. And then you change generations of lives. So as my partner, Nick Coates says, riches are in the niches. And if it's broad, it doesn't go for it, right? Don't be a little frog in a big pond. Be a big frog in a little pond. And choose your avatar and write for them. That's mistake number 11 if you go broad. So mistake number 12, don't write until you map out your reader's journey. This is a big mistake that most writers make. They start writing and they just start writing and they don't really write with an outline. So obviously you need an outline. What is an outline? That means what are the steps that a person takes in order to achieve the result you promise? You promised to make $1 million in a minute. That's what your title said. Does your book tell how to do that? Oh yeah, there are ways that you can make $1 million in 1 60-second span of time. Yes, there are. And the people who pick that book up are usually entrepreneurs. Millionaire is a title that resonates with them. Most employees don't resonate with the word millionaire. It actually turns them off. But the word millionaire resonates with certain groups of people. It's like what they've always wanted to be. And so when I show them how they can get what they've always wanted to be and do it in 1 minute, whoa, they respond, Now, what are the steps? Well, I lay it out really clearly, in 1 Minute Millionaire. They have to do this, step 1, step 2, step 3, all the way to, and then the story of the 1 Minute Millionaire is how one of my, this is the nonfiction side right here, and this is the fiction side. So it's a very unique book. If you read only the left side, you read the how to make $1 million in a minute. If you read the right side, you read the story of a woman who lost her husband and has to make $1 million in 90 days. Now, it wasn't a minute, but as it finally started coming through toward the end, it was a minute, but it took her 90 days to figure it out. And then there's a whole story right here. So this speaks to the left brain people. It speaks to the right brain people. And I like them both to read both sides because you learn things getting it from a different perspective than you would from the ordinary way of thinking. So this is a fresh, different way. A how-to person wants the how-to. Show me how to. I'm not interested in stories. Don't tell me a story. I don't want to read the story. I want the how-to. Tell me what to do right now. But if they read the story side, which is told in a totally different way, they learn the same information told in a story format, and it's unique to every reader because it speaks to them in the way they're not used to reading anything. So they'll either be system-oriented people or they'll be story-oriented people. Or as I point out here, they'll either be engineers and they'll want a flow chart like that. Let's see, let me come out and show it to you so you can see a little bigger. Yeah. This is the engineer side, the 1 Minute Millionaire system. And this is what the engineers love to see. A right brain person, an artist type, they like to see it this way. They like to see it simple. A few steps. Just let me get the metaphor, right? Let me just kind of understand what we're doing here. I want to see the big picture. Usually engineers, they want to see the small picture. They want to see the details. An artist, they want to see the big picture. So this book was written to speak to both sides of my audiences and both sides of each individual. So the bottom line of our question, there was, I like to create a map. And let me show you some maps. These are maps from our current class. In my current class, they're special. They are special. They'll be my friends for life. How did you develop your money messages? And so this was a map that one of our students created just a few weeks ago. This is another map. So this is a metaphor for how the book, what the system of the book is. This is another one. I think Scott recognizes that one. This is another one here. There are steps in everyone's path. This is another one. Never enough money. This is another one. 5 things men say that reveal patterns of abuse. This is another metaphor, another map. And once you see a map like this is Elle. Elle has a program, Elle Ingalls Online. If you have pressure in your life, you want to raise a pressure-free family, or if you want to be pressure-free in your occupation, this is her book that she's working on right now, and it'll come out here in a few months because I'm helping her write this book right now. But this is her map, and she says there are targets, there are triggers, and there are tools. And so she teaches how to set your targets, which is set your plan. What do you want? Triggers, what things trigger you into stress, and what are the tools that get you out of stress? So when you see the big picture of something like this, you can read the entire book on one page because it's in one picture, right? So this is the program that I'm teaching with my group right now. I want all of you to write a book, whether you're working with me or not. You need to write a book. You just do. Let me tell you why. What are you learning from life? Will your lessons from life be in that one where you see your life flashing before your eyes in an instant, which is what they say for many happens after the heart stops beating, after we go to the next planet, for those who believe in that, or the next sphere, the next existence. You're going to see your life. You're going to see it all at once. And all the little memories where you were kind to somebody. I'm not saying what I'm saying is true. Somebody once said this. He said, I don't know if it's true, but it's useful. So I don't know if you see your life flashes before your eyes like that, but many people report that. And they report two kinds of things that happen. Number one, they get to feel the way the person felt when they did the kindness to them. It's almost as if it's not just a memory, a thing you see, but you get in all five senses. You get to experience it, and you get to feel what they felt. You get to feel that gratitude, that joy that you helped create. It might have been just a little thing. You might have just smiled at somebody in an elevator. Say, I hope you have a good day. And then you got off and you never saw that person again. But what people report who come back, they say, I got to feel what they were feeling. I didn't feel it before. I saw it from perspective. I didn't feel it from experience. I saw it from perspective. I got to watch them smile back at me, but I didn't get to feel what my smile made them feel like. And by the same token, and this is scarier, I got to feel what it felt like when I verbally assaulted somebody. It might have been a bad day. Forgive me, I had a bad day. And I just ripped somebody up. And I never saw him again. But what if you got to see him again and got to feel the way that felt? Now, I don't know if that's true, but it's a useful way to think about it, I think. And I don't know if you believe in heaven or hell, but the description of what I just gave you, if you got to feel the pain, if someone you know, let's make it simple, I don't want to use you, if someone you know got to feel the pain that they created, it would probably be a pretty painful experience, and you'd certainly want to be forgiven for that somehow. That's why I say Hitler is having a really bad time right now, because he's feeling millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of people. And the pain he caused not only to them, but to their families and to the pains that are even being created 75 years later. The pain is still reverberating through families that were affected by the Second World War. And that's not a fun place to be, I would think. So that's why being kind and being good and being friendly and being helpful, being a giver. I learned that one from Mark Victor Hansen. When we were around to promote our books to the various different cities, and he would be in an elevator with me, and he's always just ebullient. He's just friendly with everybody all the time. It's almost exhausting, to tell you the truth. It's exhausting. But when he would be in an elevator and he would go, hi, my name is Mark Victor Hansen. What's your name? You know, this is an elevator where people usually like to talk. And he says, I'm a best-selling author. Would you like a copy of my book? And they say, what? Give me your business card and I'll send you a copy of Chicken Soup for the Soul. We get off the elevator and you could see that that memory, that person felt so good, and then told many other people. And then when the book came in the mail, they were remembered it all over again. And I watched Mark give away hundreds of books like that. He said, well, he's rich. He doesn't need to worry about how much it cost. You know, he's rich. No, that's not the point. He's a giver. He's always giving. Sometimes it's a little strange, but the bottom line is that's why your book is a gift to the world. It's a gift. People will pick it up in the strangest places. They'll pick it up in a used bookstore. They'll pick it up in a garbage can. They'll pick it up. Somebody left it on a chair in the airport, and they went to the plane and they forgot it. And so somebody got the book. I'm guarantee you nobody threw it away. Somebody got that book. You don't throw away books. And they got it, and it was a gift. Maybe it had been a total miracle that they happened to pick up that book at the exact right time. And they read the words that you wrote, and they go, wow. It just came at the exact moment when I needed that book. And you're going to have people tell you that. And they'll say, your book came at the perfect time. Now, if you believe in a higher power, and you believe in a spiritual existence that's outside of what we see right here, if you believe in that world, I do. But if you don't believe in that world, then it's just a gift that you leave. And if you do believe in that world, you might say, maybe there was some extra little nudging going on to make sure that book got left. Maybe the cleaner was coming through with the broom to clean and just didn't clean that book off that chair because they just felt this little impression like, no, I'm going to leave that book right there. There's all kinds of little tiny miracles that are happening all around us, in my humble opinion. But one day when we get to see this existence that we went through, we'll get to see, I think we'll get to experience the joys and the sadnesses that we were part of, but I also think we'll get to see all the unbelievable miracles that were going around us. And when we see it, we'll know instantly how much God loves us. Right now, we might not know at all. We might actually not even believe. But one day when you get to see that, once again, it's my own personal belief, you'll go, I had no idea that I was so loved by so many people that I couldn't see. Well, my friends, this is our hour. I hope you learned something today. Be happy if you shared with me in the chat. I saved the chat, so I get to back and go and read what got through. For those of you who want to be authors, I hope this was information valuable to you. Wait for the 23rd of June, where I will go into depth on some of that for some of you. You'll get some notices in the email, so don't miss it. If you can make it, make it. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Well, Elizabeth, isn't that the truth? She says, I came along at the exact moment when she was thinking about writing a book. Yeah. Yeah, very good. You're welcome, Israel. Life is good. Every breath you take is a miracle. And this body, wow. Have a great day, everyone. Love you. God bless.
Blessings, Robert. Thank you so much. You are such a blessing.
Thank you, everybody.
See you soon.
Thank you, Bob.
See you soon. We'll be on the call next week. Week. What would you like to learn next week? What can I teach? Anybody want me to think up something that I can share with you that would solve us an issue you're dealing with? If so, please just
Everything. That isn't too, wait, that isn't
everything.
too
It's
No,
far.
that
a
doesn't work.
blessing, Robert. Thank you so much for your blessing.
More of the same,
I
Robin.
go, all right.
You're the blessing.
Oh, thank you.
Bless
Thank you.
you.
How you start and end your day? Good. I could talk about that. That's a good one. Hey, Nancy, I got your email. I agree 1,000% with what you're saying. I got your email, Nancy. Heshi, yeah. How do you find the focus? Okay, I can talk about that. How to teach. No, you don't want to be like me. There's only one of me, and that's enough. You want to be like you. You want to be the best you can be. That's the best gift you can give to the world. Yeah. Yeah. Creating a new future of the earth. Isn't that true? It just seems like it's just blowing up. Isn't it terrible? So many people are angry and upset and so you can see both sides. You can see the beautiful and you can see the ugly happening in front of us constantly.
Oh no.
Oh, where do my words come from? Or are you talking about where do the words I write come from? Do I meditate first? Do I have a ritual first? For me, yeah, I have a ritual. I read my spiritual works in the morning when I get up. The first thing I read in the morning. I want to be on a big picture plan. I want to be on not a 100-year plan. I want to be on a 1,000-year plan. 1,000 years before and 1,000 years after. I want to see the big picture. So it causes you to live your life in a different way when you realize that there's a lot more to life and eternity, right? Okay, everyone. I love you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank
You
you.
do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
God bless.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hi, Victoria. See you, Heshi. Your hair's good. I like it.
Werner's not going to talk to me when I come home after getting a haircut on June 29.
Well, we'll see it next time.
It'll be a